Hello and welcome to the Two Robbies Podcast, your destination for in-depth discussion and analysis of the Premier League and the Champions League. I'm Robbie Mustoe, he's Robbie Earle, and here are today's topics. Chelsea fire head coach Thomas Tuchel after shock defeat to Dinamo Zagreb. A night to forget for Liverpool as they concede 4 goals to Napoli. Manchester City cruise to a 4-0 win as Erling Haaland continues his scoring run. And Tottenham win against 10-man Marseille thanks to a brace by Richarlison. That's what we've got coming up in today's episode.
That's right, Mustoe, and because the Premier League is back, so your chance to win $50,000. Play Premier League Pick'em for free. You can become the next big winner. Download the NBC Sports Predictor app today, available in the App Store or the Google Play Store. Okay, my friend, really interesting week of Champions League football. Made even more interesting with some huge news that broke this morning. The sacking of Thomas Tuchel after his team lost 1-0 to Dinamo Zagreb last night. The sacking was seen to be more than maybe just the result in a series of results. That there seems to be other things that were at play here. But tell me where you are, mate. We spoke on the pod, didn't we, and said, he needs to get things sorted and, he'll have 6 weeks, so he'll have so long. This came a little bit quickly and a little bit blindsided one or two people, mate.
Yeah, I think the first thing to say, Rob, is that we, if something else has happened within the club, we don't know about it. And nobody, very few people would know about it. If there's been a bust-up, a disagreement, you read stuff on the media and social media and newspapers and stuff and on the websites today, and maybe there's a thing about Ronaldo that he wanted him and Tuchel didn't want him. What that side of it, we don't know. On everything else, the football side of it, it's crazy. It's crazy too early. Now, the Chelsea fans, and I've listened to lots of stuff today, I think they're kind of split, Rob, what I've seen. The football wasn't good. It's kind of slow, ponderous football. We've kind of talked about the football that he plays. But, the facts are that this guy's been helping Todd Bowley, the new owner of Chelsea, recruit players. And he said just recently, I've enjoyed the last few days being on the training ground working as a coach and not looking at players. Why would you, if you're the owner, what was the number? It's like $324 million.
$200 million on players.
On 9 signings that he's recruited and wanted and brought to the football club. And Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, a player that, the whole point of him coming was because he's worked with Tuchel before. And his first game, to fire him after that, it's way too early. Give the man, it's too late now. And it's I feel like this is already old news. Why wouldn't you give him, Fofana's just started to play. Aubameyang started to play. There's a lot of good players that's come into the club. Well, okay then. Now we've got to get going, Thomas Tuchel. Now we've got to put this team together, build it. Get your key men in different spots. It was Havertz played up front with Sterling and Aubameyang. That looks kind of good. And Mount was in midfield, and Reece James back as a wing back. So I would have expected. It hasn't been a great start, but given what's happening transitional wise with the club, and there's no recruitment staff. I see somebody else, Rob, the chief international scout, was let go by Chelsea. So there's nobody of the previous regime there. No. And it seems like he's helped to bring in these players. And now to fire him is wow. Football never ceases to amaze me. The sensible play, right, few weeks now, let's see it. Because if we don't see it, then I understand it. So it's another one, Rob, where I'm wow, way too early. Again, I'll go back with my last comment. On my first comment on this was, unless something's happened that we don't know about.
Well, my first comment is, this is Chelsea.
Let me stop it. Yeah. So why should it be the same? Why should it be the same? Yeah, but why should it be the same as different owner?
Yeah, but same old Chelsea. That's what they do, Rob. But it's go back historically to the past, and the same things have happened. This is ridiculous when you back somebody to the tune of over $300 million. You buy players for his suited to the way he wants to play. I believe in, again, social media, trying to have a few connections back in the UK to try and find a few things out. Rob, I'm hearing that there was a slight personality difference between the owner and Tuchel, that he wants to build a different culture, a different football club, work in a different way. and maybe Tuchel is not the guy or hasn't worked. Maybe the Conte thing. He got a yellow card yesterday, Rob. Really interesting. And again, not sure. And at this point, we're talking about a podcast that we're doing, nearly 5:30 Eastern time on the Wednesday after the games. But not seen one player, Rob, come out yet. Social media. Me just like, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, there was something else, Rob, wasn't there? There was also a bit of talk about player unrest, and I know he's quite
Ziyech,
a harsh critic, isn't he?
Apparently, Ziyech apparently had a bit of a face-on moving yesterday. Apparently, again, that there's talk that I think like 3 different systems in play yesterday to try and get one time Raheem Sterling was central midfield, and Ziyech at left back, left wing back, and again, I'm just picking up on things that are out there, things I'm kind of hearing a little bit from the UK in terms of maybe there's a different personality, there's a different culture that's wanting to be set by the new owners, and Tuchel maybe didn't fit in that, maybe because of the results. But again, I'm with you. It feels way too early. It feels strange having backed a guy through the summer with the kind of players that you bring in, and then you kind of go, okay, you're off, and we're going to bring somebody in who's going to have to pick the reins up, have 2 games a week of domestic football and Champions League football and all the rest, and hit the ground running, Rob, because we're going into a crazy spell of games now between now and in the break in November. So, just disappointing, really, and disappointing for Tuchel in that. I think it's 100 games he's had, Rob. He's won 60 of them. He went into the club, first of all, and changed the defending, which was a big problem. They were way too easy to play against. Won them the Champions League, won them the Super Cup, won the World Club Cup, was UEFA Coach of the Year, was FA Cup finalist, League Cup finalist, in a 20-month spell. That smacks to me of... This guy deserves a little bit longer, I think. It feels to me like he's done enough. There's enough there on that resume to say, okay, it's a bit of a rough time. We need to, bed in now and we'll work together and start to grow the club and change the culture and personalities. It feels, Rob, to me, as though this decision was not based on a result. This decision was around, a manager's you're already talking to they're already talking to Graham Potter of ask. So they've already got the targets. This was already being set up.
Just last before we move on to Potter and who else might be in for the job, Rob. I'm just interested, we've just explained how the whole football recruitment side of this club has been gutted. It's been bare.
Yeah, strange, yeah.
So Todd Bowley, and his knowledge of, I think, English and European football or world football, the sport basically is not great. He made this call. There's no other football expertise in the building.
He's working. Okay, I hear he's bought. I don't know if he's bought in or using. I believe he's bought in a data analyst, an analyst team who've done the research. So these were the guys behind Anthony Gordon. These were the guys behind Ronaldo. These were the guys. So whether he's taking advice from them or they're getting in his ear, and he's then saying, these fit our metrics of players, and maybe Tuchel's saying, does he want the Ronaldo thing? Anthony Gordon maybe wasn't what he felt he needed. I think Rafinha and Richarlison and others were on that list. It seems to be, Rob, that he's going down the science route, and whether he's bedded in that, got experience in that, maybe through his other sports and in his other franchises. It seems that that's where he's getting his football knowledge from.
It just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense, Rob. It doesn't make any sense. You've just trusted him to bring all the players in. You talk about the data and stuff like that and the different targets. Well, he kind of acquiesced, and Tuchel's brought in the players he wants to bring in. It's like, okay, let them coach now. So listen, we can probably go over it and over and over it. What I would say, Rob, in terms of the football, and we've been saying it a long time, or I've been saying the way the football is so slow. And this game was the same thing. They lose the game. It was incredibly slow and lacking intensity, and there's no penetration and the same kind of stuff. Front players, the same story, struggling to have impact. He changes them, makes subs. It was something that needed to improve. But I mean, to fire Thomas Tuchel at this point is incredible big play. It's a big play by the ownership, and I hope they know what they're doing, Rob. And And, we can go on now and talk about people who are coming, unless you want to talk about the game. I mean, there's not much to say about it.
There's not much to say. Was it one big interesting? Kepa came in for Mendy, which was an interesting big call. Fofana started. Was probably for the goal, really. It was a European game. So for the goal that went in. It was a similar clunky, stodgy kind of Chelsea, not slick, no rhythm at times. For the quality of player, the football doesn't quite add up, and they're not quite sure why. With the quality of technical operators that they've got, I don't know why they can't dominate games better, play quicker football, create more chances. But having said that, they had a couple of chances. Aubameyang had a couple of looks, probably should have done better. Havertz has a header late on. Reece James hits the post. Well, Kepa, to be fair, came up with a brilliant save. The one-hander onto the crossbar. That's going to be interesting for Newman, whoever that is. Mendy was the number one, had a little bit of rocky form, possibly for a couple of goals. Certainly the West Ham equaliser that would have been it if it was given at the weekend. And Kepa in now. So, what does a Newman do? Who comes in? Does he put Mendy back and give him the confidence and say, you're my man until you let him down? Or does he keep Kepa in? And so many question marks for whoever comes in. And at this point, we'd have to say it does look like Graham Potter's certainly favourite. He's in talks with the football club at the moment, talking about a multi-year contract. I think there's a £20 million buyout clause of Potter's contract from Brighton that Chelsea would obviously have to pay. And they're talking that if they can get things done quickly and well, that they'd like him in still for the weekend.
Well, there's three names, isn't it, Rob, that came up straight away? Graham Potter, Mauricio Pochettino, and Zinedine Zidane. And it seems like Graham Potter is the number one choice. And I think they've agreed the fee with the club. The club has given Graham Potter, he can talk to Chelsea about this position. I think it's going to be a fascinating conversation between Graham Potter and Todd Bowley and whoever else is in the room about what we're looking at here. Because I'll say right now, I'm not sure, and this is it's such an interesting conversation, that it's the right fit for Graham Potter. I want to quickly caveat that by saying I get that the managers at this level, and we spoke about it so recently, Rob, on the show and the last podcast about managers that do a great job. Their stock price is really high, and then it can go.
We're talking about Brendan Rodgers, Robin, where he was and where he's dropped in Graham Potter now.
So I understand if he's going to go for this, and I mean, maybe these opportunities don't come around. So I get that, and that's very powerful, and that might win out. All I would say is, I feel that Graham Potter, Rob, is more of a planning manager, more of a longer term guy, more of a builder, more get in tune with the club and get a great setup recruitment wise and do amazing in that side of things. This is different. This is more glamour, more instant, more, if Todd Bowley is going to be that's going to keep your Chelsea way going where they're going to fire people, crikey, he could be out of a job in blimmin' 6 months if things don't turn around. Now, again, and this is just chatting to our Spurs producer, Mike, happened on this podcast, Rob. He's a Spurs fan. And I said to him, I would like to see, and again, this is just my opinion and stuff, but I think he should wait at Brighton for the Tottenham Hotspur job, because Antonio Conte is going to last a certain amount of time. He's a project manager. And you know what happens, Rob, when a manager gets fired from a club, there's an instant desire to go opposite. And opposite of Antonio Conte is a long-term, safe, steady, attractive football. And Graham Potter is absolutely perfect for that. He'll get the stability of Daniel Levy that will give him time. There'll be patience. I feel that that's more of a building project than him coming into Chelsea, where he'd be expected straight away to handle big-time players. Like, he's never, to a Champions League experience. My goodness, what a position to be thrown into, Rob.
A counter to that, Rob, and I hear your argument and agree in many ways with a number of things you say, but I suppose some of our viewers or listeners and people would say, well, what's the big difference between Chelsea and Spurs, maybe apart from Chelsea won more trophies? Same big clubs, same ambition.
The philosophy.
But I don't think, and I agree, because one of my notes on Graham Potter was Graham Potter builds teams and builds success over a period of time.
Yeah.
He's a slow burn manager.
Right, exactly.
But these jobs, the top 6 jobs are not slow burn wherever you go, Rob. Look at Ten Hag went in at Man United. The first 2 games got wiped out, and then he's had to find his way and find. I agree with you that it's not the most natural fit for Graham Potter. I do think we're going to be in the David Moyes getting the opportunity at Manchester United position. I'm not sure if you're Graham Potter, you can turn it down.
I'm not sure. I get that, but
absolutely not sure.
Yeah, I know, and it's all right for me to say we'll wait for the Spurs job. There's a ton of things that can happen, and I understand that, and you're probably going to be right. That's why I said it straight away. He probably is going to be appointed, and got to be honest, I'm excited to see what he can do because he's a brilliant coach.
Can I chuck one at you as well? I mean, it's a bit left field, and it's not the same, and it's a different era and all that. But the Graham Potter style, the man, the intelligence, the coaching ability, the man management skills, the systems of play we've seen. He looks a bright, smart, young coach. We've talked about for weeks and years, actually. We've talked about him. And I know the question is going to come up, and I'm sure when we get the weekend, like people will say, well, he hasn't handled big players. And I kind of want to poo-poo that one a little bit because, and I'm going to make a little example, maybe different backgrounds from different places. But Arsene Wenger came in at Arsenal from Japanese football. I'm sure he got almighty stick for looking like a school teacher. People were like, "Oh, we'll never be able to do it at Arsenal." And good if you're a confident, good coach that players instantly can respect, see what you're doing, think they're going to get better. You have no problem with big players. You have problem with big players if you're not good enough. If you go in there and you're winging it a little bit. And
what about big players that are not playing?
Well, that's something you'll have to learn. But he's a smart guy, Rob. He ain't no fool going in there. He went off and studied. I think he's got 2 degrees in different things. He went abroad and learned. Yeah. He's a very smart, worldly guy. And I think that's the kind of people who big players can live with if they're honest and truthful. And listen, it's a consequence of big things. I'm not saying Neil Maupay is a big player, but he's had to deal with his issues in his own football club, and he's done that the way. I just think we can, if we don't give people a chance, we can't always keep saying, "Oh, I know." Alex Ferguson, when he came in from Aberdeen, wasn't handling the Robsons and the McGraths and the Whites and the people, but he handled them. He sorted it out eventually, and he got where he got to. And I think we've got to give people a chance to do that, not just sort of jump down that, well, he's never handled big players. Big players will react to top managers, top coaches.
Yeah, they will. Listen, and that's one angle of this, isn't it? And you're right. I mean, at some point, every up-and-coming manager is going to jump a level where, all right, I'm dealing with this sort of player now. I get that. Yeah. It's more about the philosophy of the club. Now, if Todd Bowley has sat him down and said, you know what? I've signed Fofana on a 7-year deal. Yeah. I've got Reece James on a 6-year extension. I want this to be a long-term situation. Then absolutely brilliant. If that's the bed he's going to go into, brilliant. And we won't know that. That conversation.
Well, he's bought Chukwuemeka from Villa. He's put Brozier on a long contract. He's got Gallagher, Cucurella, somebody knows. It feels like the long term is important as well.
He wanted Ronaldo, didn't he? He wanted Ronaldo.
Yeah, that's what it is now. I assume for commercial value as much as anything else. This guy's a businessman. But listen, we're going to have to see how that plays. And maybe Graham Potter's a smart enough guy to probably understand, Rob, if it isn't for him, I think he's big enough and maybe to go, actually.
I think so.
This doesn't work for
stay
me.
Where he's at.
Yeah.
The other name, Rob, before we move on, in terms of somebody that I got to be honest, I think would be a better fit is Mauricio Pochettino. I know that his stock prices, his stock's down a little bit, given his tough times at PSG. But in terms of Champions League experience, Premier League experience towards the top end, dealing with all that stuff, I mean, he ticks a lot of those boxes. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I want to see it. I want to see. We've said this for so long.
I'd like to see Graham Potter go in. I'd like to see him go in, and
I just hope he's given some patience, mate. I hope it's just not going to be.
Don't you feel though, Rob? If Graham Potter goes in, almost like it feels different. So the fans might react to him differently. It's not one of those, all the other managers gone to Chelsea are high-end, top-class European operators who've won leagues, who've won European titles.
I don't know.
This guy's going in different. This guy's English. He's come up from the lower leagues. Has earned his opportunity. Now he's going in to see if he's good enough to manage at that level. I just think that people might give him a chance.
Well, I don't know. They're used to success. They're used to this club firing managers. They've had one of their own in Frank Lampard come in, great, and then all of a sudden
Frank wasn't great. Frank didn't do
well,
great.
Yeah, all right. So I agree. If he's great, he's great, and everybody's happy. But if he's not great, what happens then?
But if he's not great, but if he's not great, whether he's a European winner, if he's Ancelotti or he's Graham Potter, if he doesn't win enough games, he'll get the sack. He'll know that. But I just think he might get a little. I think he might get a little bit more time because it's a longer process, and it's the owner's guy. When owners go into football clubs, however you like it, they tend to want to get their own man in the door.
Yeah. All right, mate. Brilliant. I mean, amazing. I woke up this morning you just never know. You never know what you're going to wake up to, and I didn't see that coming. I did not see that coming so quickly.
When I saw the Tuchel, we got a link from our main producer. I saw the link for Tuchel. I thought it was going to be one of those articles where, Tuchel's had a meeting with the owners and they've said, we've got to sort things out. I just didn't think it was Tuchel. When I clicked on the link and opened it, I was like, what?
Wow. I know. Yeah.
It was incredible. But they defeat as well. Obviously, set that off. So not a good start for Chelsea in the Champions League. Not a great start in the league as well. So some work for whoever the new man. And obviously over the next few days, we'll keep you abreast of that. Hopefully by the weekend's podcast, Mustoe, there might be a new man in charge.
All right.
Okay, let's move it to Italy, to Napoli. To Napoli versus Liverpool. Always a great fixture. Apparently, Jurgen Klopp's, I think, lost the last 4 times he's been at Napoli now with teams, which I was surprised about. Shocked by the headlines because you were watching this game. I kept an eye more on Tottenham and Marseille, so we're across both games. Yep. I couldn't quite believe when I saw 4-1. It was like not quite at the Tuchel level, but wow, it was like, really? Where are Liverpool? Is this becoming more serious?
Yeah, I mean, it is serious now. We can say, they haven't quite found this and they're not this and that. And of course, we know about the high line. And for the majority of last year, it was pretty good. Like, they'll take that risk given what they did at the other end and to be so close to win the title. But this, mate, there's got to go down as the worst 45 minutes I've seen from Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp. To a point where, I mean, they gave away 2 penalties. They could have had 4 or 5 goals, Napoli, in the first half, mate. I'm not even joking. Like, Liverpool, the vulnerability of that back line was insane. Like, any time, and happened lots of times, the ball turned over. Napoli flipped the ball over the top. Asherman, the big striker, this young striker that there was a bit of rumour wasn't coming to a few teams in the Premier League, gets on the other end of it. They got in so many times. I mean, Joe Gomez, Rob, played centre-back. And he had a nightmare, to be fair. And like, I feel for him. Like, it happens sometimes. Van Dijk, I thought, looked shaky and was losing his edge a little, his rag a little bit. He was getting frustrated. Trent Alexander-Arnold was so many times out of his right back spot. So when those counters come in, it was 2 at the back. It was 2 at the back for Liverpool. This is worse than I've seen, Rob. And second half, like, I don't know, a little bit better, possibly. They get a goal. Luis Diaz was the only player that got any sort of credit from the game, Rob. It gives everything all the time, which is pretty remarkable. Mo Salah in the first half, and I'm not joking, couldn't control the ball. Went under his foot once. He failed to bring a ball down that was right in front of goal from, I think it was a Trent cross with his left foot.
How can this be, Rob, from a team who've pushed Man City so far, have gone so far in Champions League? We know how important this competition. How can this drop-off be from the team we saw, albeit it's a week before the season, but Community Shield, they go flying into Man City, they win the game, they look like they're all set up. And then from that day forward, it's not really... the 9-0 at Bournemouth apart, we'll take that out of the frame. Bournemouth was shocking. Liverpool had a good day, scored goals at the same time. Apart from that, Rob, how is Salah not be able to control the ball? How is the intensity and the focus of Liverpool?
Well, that's it. Well, that's it.
That's not easy to get back. If you've lost it and you don't know why it is, that's not an easy thing to fix.
I think there's a couple of things, right? The first thing is intensity, desire, hunger. I'm just things I'm writing down as you're talking there. That is not there. Now, I don't know why. There's a bit of talk now, of course. Everybody starts talking. What's going on? Things aren't right at Liverpool. Things like what's going on behind the scenes or whatever. That's one part of it. The second part of it is game plan, and it is Jurgen Klopp's responsibility to address something that's kind of been there in it on the edge. This high line. It's not so much the high line. I understand the high line by having your team play high, and you want to attack, and you want to keep away from your goal. I get that. But when there's a turnover, you can drop off. It's the good old-fashioned Arsenal offside trap. They try and play offside on these counters. So when you see a Napoli player in midfield get it, you got the two centre-backs particularly that are just edging. He's offside. Like it's the old-fashioned offside
gamble.
trap.
Yeah, the gamble offside.
And of course, when the ball's played and he's offside, it's brilliant. Blow the whistle. You still keep the game in where you want it to be, and it's great. But at the moment, particularly when Gomez plays, I think Matip has a better understanding of the offside with Van Dijk. It's that offside trap is in bits. It's a shambles in terms of that. So that means anytime the ball goes over the top, they're out of it. Now that's got to be, mate, a rethink. Jurgen Klopp has got to sit down with his coaches. I think it's come to the point where we know we've got great players going forward. It's because it's turned Liverpool, Rob, over the last couple of seasons from intensity and pressing and counter pressing, all the stuff that the buzzwords we use with them. It went away to a bit more possession, and look, they're doing it a different way now. And they had been, and they almost won the title on it last year. But this from the start of the season and the nature of this performance and others in the Premier League that got away a few times, they got some late goals or whatever. Yeah. But it's got to be a rethink because this simple ball over the top. I mean, any team that wins it,
deep
got
runners,
quickie up front, they're going to get chances in behind. And it was a really, really, if you're a Liverpool fan, Rob, and before you might be, we haven't quite found it. People are going to come good. This was, whoa, okay, screech the brakes, take the flipping record, scratch the record off. Okay, something's got to be done now because that was incredible. And Napoli, we can give them a ton of credit. Simeone scores the goal. Anguissa, remember Anguissa from Fulham, midfield player? Ran the show. Scored a lovely goal, played a little 1-2, got in behind, slotted in really nicely. Zielinski got the penalty, scored a goal later in the game, 47th minute. I mean, Napoli was superb, but that for Liverpool, that is not acceptable, and it's going to be fascinating. I didn't get a chance to listen to Jurgen Klopp afterwards. About what he's going to say and what he's going to do. But there's some interesting times ahead because that was not like Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp as we've seen it over the last multiple seasons. No, not at all. Like you say, I think that was a bit of a shock for Liverpool and teams around Europe. Be interesting how he gets things back to Gordon. And I've got a few injuries as well, haven't you? So he's talking about, doesn't have the depth maybe that other teams. Thiago came back. Thiago was back in. Jota came back in. So people are coming back now. And maybe because Milner played in midfield, Rob. Again, Milner, he gave the penalty away. He threw his arm out a little bit. He was then booked. This is all in 10 minutes. Thiago is back. Harvey Elliott does a good job. Fabinho. So maybe
getting some of those guys back in.
The crisis talks maybe gets held off whilst he gets his first team back. So maybe he can point to that as something of the reason of, listen, we'll get back to our best Liverpool. But that was far from it.
Yeah, well, somebody who did have a good day and got 4 goals, scored 4, Manchester City. No surprise, Erling Haaland gets himself another brace. I mean, incredible scoring. Was it 12 goals in 7 games now? We were together, weren't we, watching some of this game? I mean, City basically just way too much for a severe team that is not playing particularly well anyway in their own league. But City as strong as ever. Midfield 3 of KDB, Rodri and Silva. Front 3 of Foden, Haaland and Grealish. Jack Grealish getting the start. Their football was good. They continue to build up. Kevin De Bruyne looks in absolutely tip-top nick at the moment. He gets into one of his favourite spots, sings the ball across, and guess who's there on the far post? Not quite a jumping volley this time, but just a good position, far post with a side foot volley. Haaland gets his goal, gets City off and running, and then it's a matter of how many. A lot of talk, Robert, about Haaland. Pep after the game was interesting that he said, we can't win the Champions League with just Erling Haaland. It's about a team. And I thought it took me back to, remember the Pep saying a couple of years ago, was it when Pochettino was in charge of Spurs? It's a Harry Kane team.
Yeah.
And, I think we're going to call this the Erling Haaland team because it's about the goal scorer, and Pep's making a big thing. It's about other things and other parts that was interesting. As we were watching the game yesterday, we were sort of discussing one or two things, weren't we? We know the Kane and Haaland sort of comparison will come up this weekend when the two teams play at the Etihad on Saturday afternoon. But I was thinking about his biggest skill, Rob, is his physicality, and all those natural attributes are brilliant. But his biggest skill is being in the right place at the right time. Yeah,
it is, and with an insatiable hunger to score. I mean, that's built in him, which is amazing. I mean, it's funny because you have a day where Kylian Mbappe scores these wonderful volleys, and it's really fun to watch. And there's you can juxtapose the two players when you watch the highlights, and they're very different. Like two of the hottest strikers on the planet, yes, but they do it very differently. I mean, Man City have changed the way they play. I went back, Rob, this morning. Like, I watched the game again. Because when we were out and about, I wanted to see it again and just make a few observations about the City side. And first off, everything's kind of been simplified, just based on this one, and maybe some of the other games where it's almost a 4-4-2, by the way. De Bruyne is pretty much up front with Erling Haaland. Yeah. On the right-hand side, as you said, Phil Foden and Grealish. Jack Grealish, still not looking comfortable. Got to say it. Like, they won the game. He's still not providing the output and the quality that I think the club and his manager expects. Again, we'll see. I think that was pretty obvious. But what I'm saying about the simpler system, it's kind of 4-4-2. And there were so many crosses in this game. And I think they've realized that if they feed this guy in the box, he attacks everything. Almost every ball that goes into the box, he's competing for. So that's kind of a very simpler way of playing for City. We'll see if that over the long haul is going to provide better results, better outcomes. Tough to beat the league. Whether that's going to make a difference in the Champions League, I don't know. But the connection, you said it, another goal. The connection of Kevin De Bruyne and Erling Haaland, I'm guaranteeing it is going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. If those two players stay fit for 75% of the games, those numbers are going to be mad, because every time De Bruyne picks the ball up, and what he does as well, by the way, and our listeners and watching folks out there, he plays starts at number 10. His favorite move is to pull deeper into the inside right position, and he gets it out of his feet and he's swinging these balls in for cross, or he's slapping it along the ground in between defenders for him to run in behind. So the two of them, and there was actually a moment in the game, Rob, I remember we chatted about it, like where Earle played in De Bruyne and he should have scored. The goalkeeper made a good save. So simple football. The two of them combining is amazing. City have changed their attacking third kind of priorities, less intricate, getting behind, pull back for tap-ins. More, they'll do that, but if need be, they'll swing the ball in for crosses because he's amazing at attacking them. So, I mean, they look amazing.
And in some respects, Rob, it's just, when you talk about the simplicity, it's just another option, I think, and that's what this City team now got. Because if they need to go back to some slightly more intricate false nine, or if he got injured, they can probably go back to that as well. Do you know what I mean? But right now, maybe more efficient, maybe less demanding, or and be able to just put balls in. You don't have to work the ball all the way to the byline where they used to and pull across. Now they can cross from 18, 20 yards out, mate, and you've still got that same threat, and he's going to get you, incredible amount of goals, as well as all the other talented players underneath him. It's interesting, Rob, because and he has been involved in some build-up play, but he's much more about the box. He's not like Harry Kane, I sense, gets joy from coming deep and playing people in and joining in. Haaland doesn't
Don't need to do it.
He's that bothered now.
Yeah.
In that team, he's got players who can do that. You've got Gundogan, you've got KDB, you've got Silva, you've got Foden, Grealish, Mahrez. Why do I need to come in there and create that, block that space off for him? Just get himself in the box, make sure he's at the end of the move, and put it in the back of the net. And he's doing that pretty well at the moment, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, just another couple of things, Rob. Just again watching it again a little bit. The young left fullback, Sergio Gomez, a 22-year-old started left back. He's got a nice left foot. Again, he's going to serve balls in for the big man up front. Manuel Akanji, the big centre back, started this game. Yeah. Big, strong guy. Like, that's going to be interesting, because when we start to get to the later stages of Champions League, I think we start to think about good teams playing against City. Yeah. And defensively, they've got to be stronger than they've been.
One-on-one defending situations.
I mean, teams do a job on them over two legs. Yeah. So I thought just watching those two players is interesting. And the last thing I want to mention in this game, Rob, that is a player that we've talked about before, Phil Foden's quality. I mean, he scores a lovely goal, Rob. He scores a lovely goal. Yeah. What a lovely footballer he is. Wherever you want to play him, he switched flanks. He went from right to left later on. Bernardo Silva, well, he already started. Jack Grealish went off or whatever. I mean, what a lovely footballer. This team, I mean, in its a little bit simpler version, don't have to look good. And there's tons of players to come in, Gundogan and Mahrez and others that you mentioned. So with those new players, it's their wing at a canter. They look pretty sweet at the moment, mate. And another example, Sevilla, tried their best and they kept it fairly quiet. But as soon as Haaland scored, the goals came in the second half, and it was a very comfortable night again for Manchester City. Impressive stuff. Yeah,
very impressive win. It can obviously will probably people's favourites to win it with Haaland at the top of the pitch. Bet too far against them. I was watching the Tottenham Marseille game, mate. Spurs at home, big atmosphere. Marseille brought plenty of fans, so great occasion at the new White Hart Lane Stadium. It was Spurs team with Romero, Dyer and Longley as the three centre backs. He had Perisic at left back, Earle on the other side, and up top, Richarlison got the start with Son and Kane. So Kulusevski went to the bench, which was interesting. I've got to be honest, Rob. This game. Sloppy Spurs. Spurs to start. I mean, for 20 minutes.
Not playing well, but just winning. That's the story.
Well, I mean, second half was a bit better. Conte definitely got into it. But first off, Rob, they were sloppy with the possession. Marseille had a nice high press on. You think it's well set up for Spurs to counter-attack. They didn't put 3-4 passes together, give the ball away easily. It was really disjointed. And part of me, they got the job done. Second half was better. Richarlison got a couple of goals, 2 headed goals. He's going to be important to him, Rob Richarlison. He's a great little buy.
Yeah, he's a great buy.
Kulusevski came on the pitch. Spurs went to a back four in the second half and looked a bit more dangerous. And Richarlison got his goals. First, I didn't actually realise, first games he'd ever played in Europe, because he's never played in European competition. So it was his first European games. He got a couple of goals, which is great. And obviously sort of gives the manager something to think about with the weekend coming up. Obviously, Spurs go into Manchester City, and a couple of goals. Does he keep him in the team? If so, who drops out? Who misses out? Is it Kulusevski who misses out again? Son again didn't get his goal, came off a little bit later second half. But second half was a little bit better. But for Spurs' advantage, Marseille had a player sent off after 42 minutes. And Mbemba got fouled Son. Son is running through, trying to go towards goal. He's the last man, takes him down. Referee has no option but to give him a red card. So pretty much 48 minutes on the clock. They had to play the rest of the second half with 10 men. And for the spell, Marseille didn't look too stretched. Spurs again weren't really making much of possession. Eventually, Perisic puts the ball in, and Richarlison gets his head to it, changes the whole atmosphere, and then he gets a second goal. But sort of my takeaway with the Spurs, and it's very much similar to what we said, certainly not playing great. We'll rely on the front guys. This time it was Richarlison's day to get the goals. But almost for the first 20 minutes, Rob, the tone was set in the game that I sometimes think it's going to be harder for Spurs to grab control of games if they continue to give the opposition or allow the opposition.
It's like Wolves, Rob. Is it like Wolves where like the crowd were up for it, and then the longer the first half goes on, they get quieter and quieter and quieter. It's like, well, this is like pretty rubbish.
Yeah,
really.
the crowd. I mean, the Marseille crowd were the ones making noise, and the Spurs fans were just watching, really like, well, this ain't great. It's 0-0, but this ain't a great watch. And lots of excitement, first Champions League games of the season, and it was a bit weird. It was a bit weird, and I just don't know how Spurs get a better foothold early in a game to compete for a bit of possession, and it's almost like they just go back foot, passive, sit there, and the other team start playing and start getting a bit of confidence and like the ball and build a bit of rhythm up, and eventually they're going to create chances.
I think a couple of things, Rob. I think first off, I think it's still. There's obviously improvement there, and they're still winning games. And it's like, I think it will get better. I think they will become a better footballing side when they find a bit more rhythm and a little bit more confidence with the ball and be a tiny bit more expansive. I know that Conte's scared of conceding goals, and I get it, and that's really important to him. But I think they will get better. Question for you, Longley, defender. You know, he's one of the new ones, and potentially making their 11 better. It's often Ben Davis left in the back. Longley played in it, Rob. It's just Longley, Dyer, and Christian Romero was at the back three.
Yeah.
So how was Longley? How does he look?
Actually, he looks pretty solid. I think nothing like it's not world beating, but he doesn't look like he's going to make major mistakes. He looks pretty solid, and gives a balance on that side. Works quite well with Perisic down that side. I've got to be honest, Rob. On the day, Romero didn't play particularly well today. Looked a bit off. Yeah, he's not. I've been a little bit disappointed. I know he had a bit of an injury, didn't he, in the season and off. He came off late on. Tanganga came on for him late on, which I don't know if he's carrying a knock but just didn't look quite. You know, we've talked about him and liked him and said, you know, that aggression and that little bit of power he brings, something important. So. Still feeling the way, I think, Spurs in a number of areas. It wasn't a great day for Sonny and Kane. Had a couple of chances, wasn't quite on. Again, you know, great that they've got a Richarlison now that can come in and you know, give him that little bit extra up front. But still plenty of work to do for Conte. He said he's pleased to get the win and get them off and running. But I think he'll know they'll have to play better than that in this competition if they want to go deep.
They might have to play better than that as well, Rob, when they play Man City on Saturday, 12:30 Eastern time. Massive game. Just have a quick think about that one. We know it's going to be dominated by the two strikers on show for both sides. But talk about like two teams at this other end of the scale in terms of their philosophies, proactive versus reactive. And I tell you, it's not a foregone conclusion for me that City are going to win this game, given how they throw people forward, and Tottenham are very, very good counter-attackers. It's going to be fascinating. What's your gut telling you about
similar, and just that we saw City last week against Villa score first, have a load of chances not taken. Villa get back. You know, if it's only one or it's 0-0, as what Conte's been able to do with his team, even when they're not particularly playing well, they haven't conceded. And then they go on and you know, that front three can hurt. And you talked about City's issues with the fullbacks, probably going in a little bit narrow. If they turn the ball over with Kane, Richarlison's in good nick at the moment, and Son, if he plays, or Kulusevski, who came on and did quite well. Spurs are probably the team most likely to upset Man City with the way they play. And they did it twice last season, and they feel they've got a bit of a benchmark to know how to go and get results. So you know, City need to dominate, as we know they will, but put the chances away. And Haaland obviously is a big part of that, to give themselves a break. That when Spurs do break, you know, that they all got the goal up, or be aware that that's going to happen.
Matchups to watch for in that one, Rob. Just before we move on, and just do a little quick wrap of the other games. Christian Romero against Erling Haaland. I mean, we know he's tough and as aggressive as they come. So he's got hopefully he's not got a problem, Rob, injury. I know he
a bit like Mings, like mix it up a little bit of physicality, a little bit in Dyer as well. It's a day to, you know, give Eric Dyer a slap around the face before he goes out and get him in angry mode. And you're gonna have to be aggressive with this guy. Because if not, he'll dominate you and he'll cause you problems. But it should be good. Should be a great game. Looking forward to that one, mate, on Saturday. Should we just round up with a few other results from the week? Tuesday, Dortmund 3, Copenhagen 0, Benfica 2, Maccabi Haifa 0. Celtic got beat 3-0 by Real Madrid. What a great atmosphere. I saw some of that game at Celtic Court. What a great atmosphere up at there. Madrid keep doing their stuff. And Luka Modric, I think, got the second goal, Rob, didn't he? What a little gem that fellow is. Yeah. Absolutely beautiful little goal. Yeah. PSG 2, Juventus 1-2 Mbappe goals, wasn't it? The volley and then
lovely one. A lovely scoop from Neymar's little scoop over the top and flipping out. He looks sharp in Mbappe talk about them starting to really find some form now. Yeah, there's a new manager there, but we'll talk about PSG in the later rounds. The possibility to win it. He got so many good players. I did see the late Antoine Griezmann goal for Atletico Madrid 2-1 against Porto. Rob, the late goal, scores. Flipping Diego Simeone sprints down the sideline, gets involved with all the players and the team, and massive celebrations there at their stadium. And a bunch of other results. Bayern Munich win against Inter Milan, which is a big game. Ajax put 4 past Glasgow Rangers. Which is a bit sad for Rangers back in the competition. Yeah, Pilsen 5-1, Barca win. Yeah,
Lewandowski got a hat-trick, didn't he? I think he's first person to get hat-tricks for 3 teams in Champions League now. Lewandowski,
brilliant. Yeah, it's great. Competition's great.
Yeah, this is a tournament to be in, isn't it, if you want to win things. Okay, mate, good start to Champions League as ever. Good wins for Spurs and Man City, but really bad defeats for Liverpool and Chelsea. A 1-0 loss against Zagreb, enough to cost Thomas Tuchel his job. There'll be more on this, and we'll follow us over the weekend. So look out for our weekend podcast. That's on Sunday, September the 11th, when Chelsea probably have a new manager and could be Graham Potter. And we'll review the big game from Saturday at the Etihad. Manchester City host Spurs. But for now, I'm Earle. He's Mustoe, together with the 2 Robbies. Thanks for watching and listening. Be safe, stay healthy. We'll see you on Sunday. It's a good night from me.
And it's good night from him. Good night.
Good night.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. For even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you over there.